for joining us. I do want to pay him the respects that he is due and share with y'all what his bio is like. It's so impressive. So bear with me as I just kind of skim over and introduce Michael Quash from our corporate office. He was born and raised in Southern California. He has had extensive experience in the mental health initiatives in Orange County. He is Amari's Director of Product Development and joined Amari in 2016 in the startup phase of our company. He works alongside our Chief Scientist, Dr. Sean Talbot, who y'all have heard us talk about often. He is, he is executing product development initiatives that carry out research, design, scientific substantiation. I knew that word was going to get me. Content and educational resources. Michael's area of study and background is in behavioral science and mental health recovery, and he has collaborated with many of Southern California's universities to build curriculum for the graduate students. He holds various certifications in nutritional psychology as a member of the Academic Society of Functional Foods and Bioactive Compounds and Functional Food Institute. And outside of Amari, Michael enjoys spending time playing competitive tennis, reading, playing with his Great Dane, who, correct me if I'm wrong, but her name is Minnie and she's huge. That's right. Yeah,
that's correct.
And Michael says that he believes that there is nothing more valuable than understanding human behavior. So I think, y'all, we have an expert on our hands that's going to talk to us about the kids' products and how our products are being used to help other people or help children in their mental health. And he is going to address several things for us. I'm going to turn it over to Michael and let him share with us what he's got tonight.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the, almost grand kind of introduction there. I'm very grateful to be here to be able to share some of the things that we've been working on from a scientific perspective, but also from a holistic perspective with everything that we do here for the specific population of children. Sean and I have been working together since pretty much the beginning of time. So everything that we talk about, and can you guys see my screen? It should be a graphic of a gut, a brain, and a heart. Can you guys see it?
If y'all join, please mute yourself.
Yes, we can see it, Michael.
Yes,
okay, perfect. So for those of you who have never been here with us before, our science really lays on the premise of the gut-brain axis that you see here. I'm going to give you guys a quick crash course from a science perspective and a mental health perspective of what Amari is doing, how it works, and why our natural solutions are really changing the landscape of mental wellness in our families and children. The reason why we're focusing on those types of things are obviously because there are teachers out there and families and children are fundamental demographics to any teacher and in fact any future. So it's a really important area to be looking at. So this is exactly how your three brains are connected and what types of feelings that people might benefit from an interconnected perspective. So you guys have probably seen this before, but I made a couple edits to it just so that people can truly understand the actual anatomical connection between the gut and the brain itself. It's really important to know that it's not just a nerve, it's an actual piece in our body that is responsible for multiple different things. And that's how we're able to modulate and help people and children feel better by leveraging what we know to balance the microbiome in our gut first, resulting in a secondary benefit here. I want to quickly share with you some statistics that really highlight, mental health in our children and how children are affected by certain things in the community today. And as you guys know, we're the mental wellness company, and we're not we don't really focus on disorders and diagnoses and things like that. But what I want people to understand is if you neglect or put mental wellness of your children or your friends' children or the children in your class on the back burner, then what happens over a prolonged period of time, it translates and converts into something like a disorder. And if we're able to take care of that very early on, when it's budding per se, then we're able to reduce the statistic that you see here. And 1 in 5 children have some sort of mental health disorder in a given year. That's astounding. That's, every other kid in your household, that's 5 kids in every classroom, the list goes on. But all of this is to give us a perspective as to how important it is that we look at this problem and how we look at solutions for those problems. This is just another staggering perspective on how important mental wellness is in children. And this gives you a bird's eye view of what's going on. 4.2 million children have ADHD or experience ADHD-like symptoms. 2.2 million children have behavioral conduct issues and things of that nature. Autism spectrum disorder. 1 in 68 children have or experience some level or moderate challenges in those areas. So, from a wide scale, mental wellness drives a lot of the components in our children feeling well. And these are just some of the data points that really helps us draw that picture. So how we approach mental wellness is through the science of nutrition and modulating some of the gut-brain axis like we talked about earlier. These nutrients modulate our microbiome, so they balance the bacteria in our gut, and the bacteria in our gut then influence something called neurochemicals, which you guys have all heard of before. And neurochemicals, don't discriminate. They, children have them, animals have them, adults have them, teenagers have them. So any human being needs to have some sort of neurochemical balance and modulation. So you can see a lot of the foods here that help with the brain and help with antioxidants and all that kind of stuff. And I want to just shine the light on that for a second, because the byproduct of getting the right nutrients into your body allows your body to produce and balance these neurochemicals that you see here. So you see the center of this Venn diagram per se, and where you want to be is in the middle. You want to have a balanced mood. So how do you get there? We approach it from a biopsychosocial perspective. So we're really touching on the diet. We're really touching on the neurochemicals, and we're also touching on the biology of human beings, which is a testament as to why the efficacy of what we're doing is so high. So with that being said, just kind of laying the canvas down so we can talk about the high points on each of our Amari Kids pack here. We've got a line of children's products that is vegan, all natural, non-GMO, sugar-free. And I want to get into each of them on their highest notes so that everybody can walk away with how this product works, what's different in them, and how it might make our children feel from a mental wellness perspective, because that's the end result that we're all shooting for. And in fact, that's what we're shooting for even when we run clinical studies to see if these ingredients work. We have to see a behavioral improvement or a behavioral change for this to actually be validated. So we'll start off with something called Kids Mood. This is something that a lot of people have already used, and we designed this specifically because we wanted families to be able to take this Kids Mood supplement wherever they are in the world, because we know that children go to Disneyland. Children, are in the classroom. Children, we're packing lunch for our children. So we needed something that had a delivery method that was innovative, but also mobile. So, we can use this and have it at bay anytime we need it. This is in a pixie stick format. So if you've ever had kind of those powdered candies, what happens is you rip it open and you dump it in your mouth and it's just powder. And in fact, this one actually tastes like candy. And it's sugar-free. So kids actually feel better or their mood actually changes and behaves differently before they actually take the supplement because it tastes good. And one of the things that children have a problem with when we're thinking about supplementation, the biggest roadblock is taste. As a kid, my parents would always give me those little Flintstone vitamins from Costco, and I would take them and I would run into the bathroom, spit them in the toilet, and I'd flush it because they were so disgusting. But kids' mood, we specifically formulated it so that children could enjoy using it and parents can enjoy the mood benefits that the ingredients deliver there. So as you can see here, there's a combination of different ingredients. The main one is really saffron. And saffron is one of the clinically studied ingredients in this formula that actually has been studied alongside something called methylphenidate. And methylphenidate is Ritalin in its brand name, but it's the most prescribed drug for ADHD in America today. And they're giving it to children for, guess what? Lack of focus, inability to concentrate, being easily distracted, being hyperactive. And all those things are things that you can help with from a natural perspective. Methylphenidate is obviously a synthesized pharmaceutical, but what we saw in the studies were 10 out of 10 kids saw improvements in focus, mood, and mental performance. So what is the end product of this? As a parent or as a teacher or as a nurse, I was a nurse in my very first life. So, I saw kids, and what does this translate into from a behavioral perspective in children? Well, children are a lot more calm when they use this. They're a lot more focused. They're less distracted. They're nicer to other children. And all these things are reflective of building better relationships with other students, with their family members. And that's all really important because they all roll up into something we call quality of life. And if we can improve quality of life, or if we can improve mental wellness, then we're improving that child's quality of life. So these are some of the studies that have been done on Mood Plus for children, and I just wanted to include it so that you guys can kind of connect the dots and actually look at the abstracts of how this ingredient was studied. So you can see it in many different ways. I'm not just saying it. There's all the data here where you guys can actually go on the World Wide Web. It's public, and you can read up exactly how many children felt better and how many families recognize those improvements. So that's the first part of our kids pack. We've got 3 products in it. This Kids Fundamentals is a kids version of our Adults Fundamentals. Exactly the same formula with one exception. There's an anti-aging ingredient inside our Adults Fundamentals that is good for kind of like a anti-Alzheimer's type benefit. But children don't really need that nutrient as they're growing up. This is the most critical time for their brains to develop. So we want to give them the nutrients that they need in the amounts that they need. And this does exactly that from a probiotic and clinically studied perspective. When we're thinking about how children feel after they take something like this, or take the Kids Fundamentals, we always fall back onto the scientific components. Well, what should they feel? How should they respond to this? And the clinical studies behind the 3 probiotics in here actually go back to what we talked about earlier, the neurochemical component of the conversation. It balances cortisol exposure, which is responsible for our stress. GABA neurotransmission, which is responsible for our relaxation. And when you're able to balance these areas, children are, again, behaving better, feeling better, and all those things that may interfere with their ability to concentrate are now a lot more clear. So these are some of the prebiotics that are also included inside this formula. For those of you who don't know, prebiotics are the food to the probiotics. So if the probiotics are living, and we can use an analogy of like a car, for example. A car is the probiotic, it's the vehicle. The car won't move unless the car has gas, the energy to move the car along. The prebiotics in this scenario is the gasoline to the car. So without the prebiotics, the probiotics don't have the ability to move and get through the process. So this is some of the studies that we've seen with autism spectrum disorder and stuff like that. I wanted to include that for you guys because, again, we're talking about children and common statistics and diagnoses that we see in the world today. So practical applications for something like this, how can we help children with this? We will oftentimes see children have less bloating, they're more comfortable in their own skin, they're less irritable, and all of those things are super important to a family dynamic, but also a classroom dynamic. And more kind of clinical studies that kind of highlight the benefits here. The end product is, kids will have less tension, they'll be less depressed, they'll be less sad, they'll be less irritable, they'll be able to think more clear, and they'll be more energetic. And that's the most important part, because being a kid and being a child is a lot about having fun. And having fun is part of wellness. And even in adults, we got to have our own fun. And excuse me if you guys can hear Minnie barking. He's a massive dog, so he rattles the entire house, even when he's in other rooms and that kind of thing. So one thing I wanted to highlight on that product is that all of our products have clinical studies that are published. So you can look on the World Wide Web. A lot of times parents and teachers want to know, they want to read, well, where does this ingredient come from? How do I know it works? And hearsay and presentations, they do a lot. They give them kind of the high-hanging fruit, but we also want to give them the substantiation that they need so that they feel pacified in what they're giving to our children. So our last piece here, I know I've only got maybe 15 minutes, but we'll skim right through it like we have been. These are really crash courses. We're not getting into the weeds, but our last one here is a Kids Vita GBX, which is our rendition of a multivitamin, but it's so much more than that. And a lot of times people kind of misunderstand, well, is this just for my child's body? Because most of the times you take a multivitamin because you want stronger bones, you want a better immune system, you want better joints, but that's not the case here. Our Vita GBX is a blend of multiple nutrients, over 50 actually, that address nutrients for the growing brain and the growing body. And when you think about that, children, for example, that is the most critical time where children are developing, especially between the 4 to 7-year-old range. And these are some of the nutrients that actually help our brain and help our bodies grow at the right rate. So you've seen things like folate, you've seen things like choline, iodine, vitamin A, vitamin D, B6. All of those things are inside our Kids Vita GBX. And this just happens to be, some random brain food for children article written by Harvard. So, this isn't something that is just made up. This is, one of the most prestigious academic publishments that we have out there. And this is what the SF or the supplements facts panel looks like. So if you ever turn your bottle around, this is a nightmare to read, but anybody who takes the time to look at it really understands how comprehensive this multivitamin is. So as always with all of the products, we always want to talk about, well, how will our children feel? What changes should we feel or see in the children that are taking this? Well, we're able to see a more balanced immune system. We're able to see more clarity in their thought process. We're able to see the less cognitive fog. So they're able to retain information better and also process information better. And that all kind of rolls up into attention and focus and that kind of thing. One of the last things I just wanted to touch on before I hand it back over to Don here is that, These nutrients inside our Kids Vita GBX is actually activate a series of things called cellular defense responses, and they're responsible for multiple different things in our body. So, it has an antioxidant effect, it has an inflammatory effect, it has an anti-aging effect, and it has a metabolism effect, and even a cellular cleanup effect, all in just one formula. So you can think of it as a multivitamin that also greases the entire machine. It keeps everything, rolling right and operating the way it should. So to end that kind of conversation there, this isn't a tablet, so it's a chewable. It's also sugar free, and it tastes good, so children actually enjoy it. So with that being said, I want to hand it back over to Dawn. And if there are any questions or thoughts, I'm more than happy to help in those areas. Oh, I think you're still muted, Dawn.
Okay, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate your time. I have a list of questions ahead of me, and you've answered every single one of them. So you've addressed what's so important, and that is the makeup of the products. But what's equally as important is hearing from someone who's actually had a great experience with our products. So I want to invite or for Melanie and Lila, if y'all would unmute yourselves. And I don't see y'all. Let me see where you are. There y'all are. Okay, Melanie and her precious 12-year-old daughter, Lila. I met them last June in Long Island. I went up for a visit. That's when the New York team launched. And we met Lila and Melanie. And I'm going to turn it over from here to Melanie to let y'all know where, when the products were introduced to Melanie and her family, where were you with Lila's state of health? Explain that to us.
So it's funny because I feel like when I met you was like a lifetime ago. We were going through so much and everything was very fresh. I guess at that point I realized that Lila was struggling with anxiety her whole life since she was in kindergarten. She had GI issues. She was vomiting a lot. We got her tested for food allergies and everything else. It never really even dawned on me that it was a mental health issue, or that, she was struggling so badly with anxiety. She became an athlete, and she started doing cheerleading, and her anxiety got in the way, and she experienced some mental blocks with her tumbling, and it kind of like spilled into school and her social life and everything else. And she got to a point after the pandemic, and she experienced more mental blocks, and she got to a point where she really didn't know how to manage her anxiety, and it was starting to manifest into a depression. And we were seeking counseling, and she was going to therapy, but her level of anxiety was so heightened by that point that we really were having a very difficult time. And I had started with Amari, really not for her at all, for myself. Seeing my friend having such great results taking Edge, I was just wanted to like not have wrinkles and lose some weight. So I had it wasn't really anything to do with her anxiety. But I had purchased so many of the products with the launch pack. And when she was having such severe anxiety, I said, we really, you got to start taking this stuff every day. And that's it, no arguments. And we noticed a change right away. So I'll let her kind of like say where she was at that time and what changes she noticed. But
awesome. Thank you, Melanie. That was a great introduction to let everybody know what y'all were dealing with. So, all right, sweet Lila, let's hear your story.
So when I started taking Amari, I had a lot of anxiety with school and cheer because I had a mental block in cheer and I couldn't finish my work on time. And I didn't want to do it after school. So then I started getting really stressed out and like crying every night. But when I like took the MRI, I felt better like for like 2 weeks, and then I stopped taking it because I kept forgetting, and that like was like the worst week of my life. And it just, the anxiety didn't stop, and that the week I went to the hospital.
No, you started taking it after the hospital.
And I was like crying every night, and I was like scared to go to school and cheer, and I could not stop crying, like, and I was being irrational, and like I turned everything into a problem, and just everything was bad.
And Melanie, Lila is mentioning the hospital. Tell us about that. She actually was admitted, correct?
She didn't get admitted, but within about a half an hour of speaking to us, you know, they prescribed medication.
Okay, that's correct. That's what I remember. So she actually started on a pharmaceutical and then came Amari's products, correct?
Yes, but the reason that I wanted her to start the Amari products right away was because she was at that stage, like she's saying, where she couldn't stop spiraling out of control, and she was so depressed and anxious. And they said that it would take maybe 4 weeks for the medication to even kick in or work, because she wasn't even on a real dose yet. They just had to see physically if it, so I, as a parent, that was, you know, I was panicked, and I was like, you're going to start this right away, and it really worked for her immediately. Like she was saying, she couldn't finish her work in school was because she was so anxious about getting things wrong or not doing it the correct way or not doing it perfectly, that she wasn't able to complete her work.
Yeah.
And then she'd have to bring it home, and then she would have homework. It was just you know, kind of like a big spiraling cycle. And after taking kids fundamentals, even for a few days, she had said, you know, I'm finishing my work in school. And she was like a different kid, you know. I really think that the products helped her mental fitness, like it boosted her and brought her up. And you know, one of my friends who kind of has been on every medication had said to me like that she had been on the same medication like as Lila, and she was like, that medication doesn't do that. That medication will balance everything and make you feel kind of even keeled, but it doesn't build your confidence and boost you up and make you feel like productive and
Right.
change your mood and things like that. So
And y'all keep in mind, Lila is 12. There's not many 12-year-olds that would hop on and speak to a group of 40 people, strangers, if she didn't have, you know, the confidence and just stability in her mental health. Michael, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, you know, I think that's you know, just a living testament as to the efficacy behind, you know, what we've designed. And you know, we're so happy to be able to see, you know, success stories. And you know, I always tell Dr. Sean and our chief science officer, you know, if we're able to, well, first off, we would only develop products that we would feel comfortable giving, you know, our family, our children, our grandparents, and so forth. And you know, we love that, and we've been able to see stories like this time after time after time, and we're just very grateful for it. So thanks for sharing, and you know, great job.
Great job. Thank you so much, Lila. So y'all, now I'm going to ask my husband, Michael, to join me at my little seat right here. Michael is going to address what, because he does so much research on in mental, well, not just mental health, but just Michael researches everything. So he's going to give his perspective on what's going on in the media and what he's reading as far as the crisis that our kids and parents are seeing in our children.
Okay, thanks, guys. And it was really informative, Michael, to hear you talk about the science behind the products, which is really what drives everything that I do when I look at this, whether it's for the adults or for the kids, but I've told Dawn and Erica and Christy and a number of people on the team, I've always felt like this kids line of products was the quote unquote killer app for Amare, because I think parents are desperate. Teachers are desperate for solutions for these children, whether they're children, adolescents, teenagers, young adults. This mental wellness, mental crisis issue is for real. And, I have a passion for this because you hate to see kids suffer this way. And so you do your research. It's just irrefutable. It's undeniable. This is a major crisis. It's a national epidemic. And if there are options, which I think parents are looking desperately for options away from pharmaceuticals. And if there are natural, holistic products that have science and clinical data that is behind it, then I think parents want to look at those options. I mean, obviously they need to consult with their physicians and make decisions that are informed. But if there are natural options out there that generate these types of results with hard clinical data, I think parents want to look at that versus having their kids on Lexapro, Ritalin, Vyvanse, Adderall, and any other chemical bomb that is out there. And they're all lined up to go to Walmart, Walgreens, or CVS to get these prescriptions. What if there was another solution? So I think that's what really drives, my passion about this, because there is an alternative. And you can look at any of the media outlets that are talking about it. The American Psychological Association is talking about the crisis. I shared some screen prints with Erica and Dawn earlier this week that they can pass along to you guys, whether it's HHS, CDC, the list goes on. The news is out. And what we're trying to do, what Dawn's trying to do, Erica, Christy, all the people that are on the team, is to spread the word and let parents know there is an alternative. And part of that involves, these ladies running a business, yes, but all having a common interest, passion, mission, whatever you want to call it, to help people, and specifically children. And so if there's some interest with anyone after the fact to talk to any of these ladies on the team about the business side, great. But really, the mission on this call is to educate and inform parents and teachers and coaches, anyone that's interacting with these children, to say, hey, you have an opportunity to take a look at an alternative. And I think that's what Amare affords everyone. So I appreciate it. I don't do social media, guys, so this is a first. And anyone that know me know it's a first. But if I can help in any way, don't hesitate. Otherwise, reach out to the ladies on the call that are part of the team. Okay?
That's it.
Good
Okay.
job.
Yeah.
All right. See y'all. Peace.
So y'all, let's open it up for questions. We have Michael here. Melanie, anybody that has a question, y'all, you can just raise your hand.